The mind is a fragile thing, and it is often the first target when a vampire wishes to resolve a situation which may not be going their way. Many clans have the ability to call upon their vitae to wipe the memories of their victims, or to compel them to enact their wicked bidding. Mental tricks are very commonplace amongst a kindred's arsenal of powers, but many serve a very simple need to either hide in plain sight or to make a problem go away. Alas, there is a power which is constantly debated and highly condemned, which has gone back and forth from being freely used to being ritualistically banished from the blood. Many have come to underestimate this power as just being a mere extension of a Malkavian's deranged madness. Yet as we know all too well with the world of darkness, judging too soon can have harsh, if not fatal, consequences. This power advances past the abilities of persuasion, intimidation, or trickery. It is, instead, the ability to distort, warp, and contort the mind in a sadistic fashion, to make it susceptible to the worst mental afflictions known within this world. Victims of this power can spend an eternity in a waking nightmare, surrounded by their worst fears, and haunted by visions which will never cease to spike dread into their beating or already dead heart. This is the power of Dementation, perhaps the most cruel of the vampire disciplines. So, if you love dark tales from gritty universes, or want to learn more about the world of darkness, perhaps leave a like, or even subscribe, as it helps the channel immensely. Also, consider following me on Twitter, where I hope to provide more consistent updates regarding this channel. It is said that the power of Dementation cannot exist without the practitioner already having at least one derangement. If you have been following my utterances upon vampires, especially those of Clan Malkavian, you will know that derangements are part and parcel of kindred within their bloodline. Most, if not all derangements, are completely unique, and may have lingered within a vampire's mind in their mortal life as a mental illness, and flourished, or more so degenerated, into something much worse after becoming embraced into the immortal world. Dementation, as such, is rooted in the practice of infiltrating a victim's psyche and utilizing one's own insanity to distort, mutilate, and oftentimes imprint a derangement onto the person's unwilling mind. It is, however, a simplistic view to believe that the power only makes their victims mad. The effects are in fact a lot more destructive. Dementation is the systematic destruction of a person's mental barriers, referred colloquially as doors, which disturbingly erode the brain's grasp on sanity, slowly melting away at the sadistic pleasure of a Malkavian. It is, as such, an abhorrent gift which is shared by very few vampires, and many within the clan have sought to contain it amongst only the truest of Malkav's blood, which once led to the discipline suddenly vanishing from many kindred's repertoire. Malkavians are colloquially known as jesters, or sometimes in more modern ages, pranksters. Pranks to a Malkavian can be as benevolent as a small trick upon your fellow kindred, or as malignant as watching an entire city crumble beneath their evil grinning maws, watching it burn merely for their own amusement. However, the prank which befell many Malkavians within the Camarilla was one which transcended the simple definition of what a prank is. This was a ritual which was conducted by many high-ranking vampires within the Malkavian bloodline, known as Methuselahs, ancient vampiric elders who made the biggest sacrifice to ensure that the members of their bloodline were permitted to join the Camarilla, to ensure that their line would persist for many millennia to pass. The ritual conducted in these days of old was a consequence of the Convention of Thorns, a medieval vampiric event which ensured an end to the First Anarch Revolt, and sought to provide safety for many vampires against the flames and stakes of the Inquisition and the bloody vampiric war which waged between the Camarilla, the Anarchs, and the Assamite clan. However, the permittance of Clan Malkavian into the Camarilla to ensure the safety for their blood brothers and sisters meant a great sacrifice, the supposed end of their most potent discipline of Dementation. The six that played their part within this prank were instrumental for the clan becoming so prominent within vampire society, at the cost of their heritage. It is said that when this coven met within Bohemia, the power that flowed between these six was so palpable that any mortal that was unfortunate to cross paths with the surging arcane energies of their vitae would be mercilessly flayed on the spot. As their powers grew, a great call was sent out within Bohemia, summoning every Malkavian within its vast radius to make an unconscious pilgrimage to the spot of this so-called prank. Once summoned, the ritual took place. Yet the information concerning this is vastly unclear and subject to many secrets and conspiracies. The most deadly one is that the blood of the ancestral vampiric father of the Malkavians, Malkav himself, willed this ritual into completion. However, this theory is immensely taboo. Such would infer that Malkav is, in many ways, conscious of the workings of his clan, and has the climactic power to shape his children through his very essence, which exists within each and every Malkavian, deep within their veins. A troubling thought indeed. Many Malkavians, when they arrived in Bohemia, were unaware of the change at all. They continued their unlives in somewhat blissful ignorance of what had occurred. However, many of Malkav's blood resisted the call. These were mostly vampires who vehemently disagreed with the Camarilla and fell under the dark wing of the Sabbat, maintaining their powers of dementation and thus being subject to much fear and horror stories around vampiric circles. The effects of the Great Prank would permeate the Malkavian bloodline for hundreds of years, until the day of the reawakening in 1997, where many Malkavians reclaimed their dementing powers, whether through the will of Malkav or the putrid mental infection spread by anti-Tribu Malkavians, igniting the horrific discipline once more in the unbeating hearts of the lunatics. Whilst in modern nights, Dementation exists under the shadow of Dominate, perhaps to simply appease the Camarilla overlords, the discipline within previous nights had a large and devastating arsenal of unique abilities. These ranged from increasing a victim's senses or emotions to erupt in magnificent, if not terrifying displays, to breaking the minds of an entire civilization, causing them to enact great atrocities with disgusting repercussions. Whilst if it were permitted, I would spend many hours discussing these abilities with you at length, I have located 3 which will give you a greater insight into how deadly this discipline truly is, and why Malkavians, whom utilized it, were so feared because of it. The ability of the Shattered Mirror subverts the conventional practices of Dementation. The regular abilities of the discipline corrupt over time, but such is a great chore if you're wishing to pollute your enemy's mind within an instant. Thus, this ability is one so swiftly devastating that it infects a victim's mind spontaneously, transferring the state of a Malkavian's deranged psyche onto the opponent. To a mortal, the effects can be deadly, as the powers of Dementation break down every door of their sanity, mutilating the very essence of their personality. These effects can last for perhaps an hour, yet in some cases up to a year or more. For any which encounter its effects will be hindered by the various unique afflictions of the Malkavian's mind, of which many can never truly prepare for. Restructure is an ability which any that wishes to retain their mind would fear more than death. Usually utilized by elders of the clan, this ability does not simply transfer a derangement onto a victim, but more so rewrites the entire mind. Whilst the victim will keep their memories, their entire mental being will be completely changed at the most basic of levels. This will often result in a vast personality alteration, which will be forever permanent. There is no way to reverse the effects of this ability, and any other attempts to use Restructure again on the same target will be met with futility. It is a devastating ability, which could be used both harmoniously or for sadistic pleasure. But it is not the most horrifying upon our list. In the ancient days of Carthage, the great vampiric city where kindred and humans lived almost in harmony, a dream naturally came to its nightmarish conclusions. As the city fell into chaos and war, the blood of Malkav was summoned to create a disastrous supernatural weapon, which would be used in those final moments of the last battle of Carthage. The lunatic eruption is known colloquially as a psychological nuclear bomb, which can sweep an entire city, condemning them to a state of bestial violence. It will turn friend into foe, and will cause many vampires to immediately succumb to a supernatural frenzy, draining any vessel of blood within their reach. The symphony of rage and bloodshed is enough to destroy entire cities, causing them to succumb under the weight of pure carnal violence. The effects of this attack can spread for for many miles, but the aftershock itself is enough to cause a knock-on effect on surrounding civilizations. It is perhaps the most devastating ability a Malkavian, or perhaps any vampire, can summon, and it is often used within the most dire of circumstances or for the most sadistic of jokes. The very nature of Dementation has caused the clan of Malkav's blood to become taboo. History has taught us that the powers of breaking down a person's mind could, and perhaps will, end in utter catastrophe. Yet no matter how hard anyone tries to subdue the powers of Dementation, they always creep back into the world of the unliving, like a psychotic plague which will forever penetrate the vampire world. Thank you for watching. I firstly want to quickly apologise for the lack of uploads recently. I have not been feeling very well for the last couple of weeks after a bout of the disease which must not be named, but I am slowly recovering back to full health. I want to thank so many of you for joining our lovely community here at Apollo Speaks. It is amazing to see your comments and your suggestions for future content. Please feel free to suggest any video ideas in the comments below. With that said, if you did enjoy this video, perhaps offer a like, and maybe subscribe if you wish to see more. I am thinking of expanding this channel to perhaps Discord at some point, so keep an eye out for any updates regarding that. You can always follow me on Twitter for more frequent updates, the link is in the description as always. And so, until next time, stay safe, and don't wander naively into the night.